Did none of you guys play WWF No Mercy on Nintendo 64? Am I alone in this?
You're alone.
I played Warzone.
Was there a WCW
Warzone
game on
Warzone.
N64?
Yes.
Terrible.
There are WCW and WWF games on Nintendo 64.
I think I played the WCW one.
Those came out first, same developer.
Wait, I kind of thought No Mercy was the WCW one too,
Nope.
but no, that was WWF. I played a bunch of them, so I probably played it at some point, but I owned Warzone.
Yeah.
And it was terrible.
Let's see. Yeah, because WWF Attitude was like the terrible one by Acclaim, and I think Warzone was made by Aki, which was the good one.
Oh, it's not a good one. I thought it was THQ that made Warzone.
Who?
I don't remember, but it was not good. I thought it was Acclaim. I don't know. It was not that good of a game, though. I played the shit out of it, though. Hey everybody, welcome to Pursuing Pixels. This is episode number 42, and my name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with Randall Nolery,
Hey, everybody.
DJ Mandolini,
Yo.
and John Hines.
Hello, hello.
We are back in full force again,
Yeah,
and hopefully for a while to come here.
that's right.
But and we're back as always to talk about some video games. And John, I think, is playing the only new video game out of any of us, or new-ish. In
Yes.
I don't know. You explain this, John.
So I've been playing Kentucky Route Zero, or as Kevin likes to call it, Kentucky Route Zero.
That's right. That's right. That's
which-
root.
Oh, such a good pronunciation.
All right.
Start the episode over.
Yes. Yes. It is a 5-act game from Cardboard Computer, I believe is the developer.
It's a good name.
And
That is a good name.
it started, I believe it was initially released in 2013, and it has been slowly coming out. They've been releasing these acts. When they first released it, it was just Act 1, and that's when I originally purchased it. And I played through it, and I loved the first act. And I was like, man, I can't wait for like the rest of this game to come out. And if you bought like the first act, you basically had access to all of the future acts. And I'll be honest, I kind of forgot about the game.
Wow.
Like I knew that when I believe it was by the time that Act 2 and the interlude came out after Act 2, I was still like following development. And like I just hadn't made the time to go back and play the game.
Sure.
But it wasn't until this year, which the final act of Kentucky Route Zero was released, Act 5, and they've re-released it on the Switch, which has the entire package. Like a thing with the original, if you bought like the original version, you had to like I think go to their website and download like additional stuff, like with like the
like
codes.
the patches or the updates or whatever.
So there was a process, but now if you buy it on Switch and I think other consoles as well, like it's just a full complete package. It's like one game, and it's
Nice.
the collection of all the acts. And I still don't have a working computer, so I was like, you know what? I loved the game enough. I'd be more than willing to just buy this again at full price. And I did on the Switch, and I have started playing it. And I only ever played Act 1. So I replayed Act 1, and I remembered, yep, this is exactly as I remembered it, and I really liked it still. Played the first interlude, the second act, and the second interlude. And it is still, like, I think one of, like, it's a game unlike pretty much any other. Like, I've played a couple other, I would say, narrative-focused games, which this is, like, it's an adventure framework for the game where, you know, you play as characters and you're like you control them by like moving them around and they interact with objects, but for the most part it is
like
really
you have direct control of your character, or
Yes.
is it like a point and click adventure? Okay.
it's I think it was when I was playing it on the computer, it was like kind of a point and click, but with like at least the Switch controls, like you're moving the control stick left and right and you move your character, and then once you get close to an interactable object, you can like interact with it.
Okay, more Walking Dead-esque then that way.
Yeah. The control scheme is similar to like other games that I've really liked in this genre, kind of like with Night in the Woods, where it is, at least with Night in the Woods, it's a strictly like 2D like platformer almost, whereas this is a little bit more like isometric 3D. Like you're not controlling a camera, it's always a straight on view, but there are some times where you move into the foreground or the background. But it is predominantly just like moving forward in text. Like there are some puzzles, but the puzzles are mostly like you need to go to a specific place based on the like narrative cues that you're given.
Okay.
So I would kind of contrast that with another like narrative like focus game like Gone Home, where that's a first person like interactable game where you're moving around in a 3D space, and like it's similar, like you're just trying to find the triggers that move on to the next event, whereas like this one is that typical like, I don't know, to like front on view as opposed to a first person view.
Okay.
But yeah, I've been playing through I still haven't gotten into any of the new content in the most recent release, but
I had a structural question for what it's worth. I was kind of interested. Is this a game where you're making decisions? Is there like built-in decision trees like there is in something like Walking Dead or the other Telltale games that came out around the same time period?
So I think that's an interesting framework, because like I know that like Telltale, like there are different endings. Like the different choices that you make affect the story, like going forward.
Right.
And I would also say, like in Night in the Woods, the choices that you make in that don't necessarily give you a different ending, but it gives you a different story. So there are like 4 main characters in that, and you only have so many options during a day. So you're basically choosing whose story you're seeing.
Okay.
Like that's on like a persistent running timeline, right? In Night in the Woods.
Right. So in Night in Woods, you can't see everyone's story. You have to just choose and make a decision. So that's what like the choices will give you a different story that you'll view, but it's not necessarily giving you a different ending.
Where like what Randall's talking about with Walking Dead, you're having like actual, almost like they're not, I wouldn't say puzzle, but you're almost like pick it. You can systematically, if you want to, I want to see every branching dialogue path in this game.
Yeah.
And just systematically cross those off and see every outcome and whatever.
The decision points. Yeah.
So you're saying in Kentucky Route Zero.
So in Kentucky Route Zero, it's like almost you are given these options to make these choices, but they seemingly have no impact whatsoever. So basically it's just what you want either the character to say or what like you want. Like there are like, I find myself making consistent choices based on how I perceive the characters to be in my mind.
Sure.
So like you are given an option where it's like, oh, maybe this character is only going to give introspective answers, or maybe they're only going to give curt answers because they're rude. And I'm just like, and I was like, no, I've played this character for a couple times. Like this is how I feel is correct. And it doesn't change the story at all. But just given that little bit of agency really does immerse you in the story.
And what's the general like premise of this game? Like in terms of like the story, not to give any spoilers away or anything, but just like what's the
I know literally
general
nothing
themes?
about this game.
Okay.
Because I know like I've seen some like screenshots and that's about it. And it's a very striking looking game.
Yeah. So Kentucky Route Zero is a magical realism game where you are you start the game. I think as you play through, you have different characters that you control, but you start the game playing as a delivery driver who is trying to find this address. And you stop off at this gas station and they tell you, oh, you probably need to head to the Zero to find that address. And then the first act ends with you finding the Zero. And the Zero isn't on any maps. It's a highway that kind of doesn't really exist in the world, but it does. And like Act 2 is when things like start getting explained is a strong word, but like you start getting more clues about like what's happening. Yeah, and you start to learn more about what reality is in this world.
So it's kind of like a mystery. Like it almost like, again, just from looking at the artwork, I'm getting like a little like almost like a David Lynch kind of vibe.
Absolutely.
Maybe. Or, okay.
Like honestly, as I'm playing it, all I was thinking about is like I love it as a piece of interactive fiction, and I think that that's a really cool and unique experience to go through. But all I was thinking is like, man, I feel like so many more people would get to appreciate this if this was like a mini series on something. Because I think it would be so cool if like certain shots were done, but like I just the way that it's done as a game, I think is so incredible and so unique. But I know that a lot of people who I think would love this type of like media or this type of story will just never play it because it's a game. Right. So I both love the fact that this is a game that I really don't think is like any other game I've ever played.
Wow.
But I'm also bummed out that like I don't think it's going to.
There's less of an audience than if it were to just pop up on as a Netflix miniseries or something.
Because even less, like I feel like even within the game, like the gamer population, like I feel like a lot of people might bounce off this because it's like very weird and very surreal and like has like a lot. I wouldn't call it horror elements, but like tense elements.
Sure. Okay.
Were those elements there even in the first act before you really knew anything?
Oh yeah. Like and that I played through the first act when it came out with Lauren, and like, you know, even when I was like, hey, do you remember Kentucky Route Zero? And she's like, was that the one with the mine? And that was just one specific scene, and she remembered 6 years later.
Oh wow.
Okay.
And I was like, yep, they just finished that game.
Wow.
That's kind of cool that it's like almost like a story driven game that came out like sort of like an early access in a way, you know, or like I guess it's not that different from like a Kickstarter thing, but like it's like you bought the first act and you kept continuously getting the follow-ups. Like that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the heyday of that during that time period. I mean, just the year previous is when The Walking Dead came out in 2012. So like the episodic game was like the hotness at that moment.
Yeah. And it was like, at least with The Walking Dead, like that was a bigger budget thing, or like had some regularity to its releases. So like I honestly had no idea that if you had told me that, oh yeah, you'll be finishing this game in 2020, I don't know what I would have thought back then. But it's an incredible game, and I'm so glad that they actually finished it. And like I've got plenty to say about this, but I know like I remember when Gone Home came out, like DJ and I, like you and I talked about
with a little chat.
Yeah. Just because like we were that was the beginning of us talking like what constitutes a game.
Yeah. I feel like that
obviously always a divisive conversation. Yeah.
And I think that was my first experience, or first one that sticks out as a story driven game. And I know originally I was very much of the mindset like these aren't games. They're just make these into movies and do that. I've come around a bit, and I view them as, you know, maybe just not. They're games that I need to be in a very specific mindset for, and I'm not usually in that mindset.
I 100% agree. Like also I bought Subsurface Circular, which is also very similar in terms of like there's some light puzzle elements, but you're not really controlling a character. You're just controlling like narrative cues. Yeah. And like I loved Subsurface Circular. I thought that was an incredible game, and as soon as like Quarantine Circular, the sequel came out, I bought that as soon as it came out, and I just haven't been in the mindset to play it. So like I still haven't played it.
And those are from the developer of Thomas Was Alone, right?
Yeah, which was also an interesting take on narrative in game, because like the narrative was linked to progress in the game, but the game was just a series of platforming puzzles as like the narrative happened in the background.
Yeah. Right.
Which was kind of like a Bastion type of thing that way.
Yeah. God, I kind of forgot about that. Yeah. That's exactly what Bastion is. But for some reason, I think of that as more of an action like game than a narrative game, even though that's absolutely what it is.
Yeah, that was its real
but
hook.
they're definitely leaning into like the Diablo-esque combat mechanics and stuff too. So it's a good balance.
It is maybe that like introducing a more intricate like system into the game, and you start thinking about it in terms of the genre, as opposed to like in like Kentucky Route Zero, where I'm there are actual interactive elements that make it a game per se, but at the same time, I'm like mostly focusing on the story.
Yeah,
which I think pulls me in. I like having those interactive elements. Like I'm not really a big movie guy, so to have something that's kind of a combination between a traditional video game and a movie is better for me to experience a story.
And also like blurring that line, like with the second that you like add an interactive element to it, I think it is so much more immersive than like just passively watching a movie.
Right.
Like
that's kind of where I'm at.
There is a moment like, so I wanted to finish at least another interlude before I came in to record this podcast. So like last night while I was in bed, like Lauren was asleep and I was just playing the Switch in bed, and I was like, all right, I'll do an interlude. Those are pretty much shorter entries. And the one that it was the second interlude, which is basically you just watching a play. So I was like, okay, I'll get this. Like you are stationary, and I think it was originally released as a VR experience.
Oh, wow.
So like you're basically like you can look around 360 degrees, and like as you like rest and look on something, that progresses.
Okay.
So you start watching this play that you are like in a diner setting and you're watching, and the ending of that play was, I'm sure if I had like seen it in VR would have like really like it's not scary, but it's like again that tense unsettling. And like having that moment, like I had to like crank the volume down as it was ending, and like as the second that it ended was just like because again like I had to activate it by interacting with it, like that level of like that just one step further than like if I was just passively watching it, even though I'm literally just watching something unfold. The fact that I still had to like interact and move a little bit, like just heightened that so much more.
Yep.
And was a nightmare for me to do immediately before going to bed.
Yeah.
Have you?
It's on you to push it forward, which is, that just adds to the intensity.
Mm-hmm.
Are the other like story-driven games you've played, like have any of those been like horror themed? Because
Night in the Woods is kind of, so when I first played Gone Home, I thought it was going to be.
So did I.
And like I think that was on purpose.
I thought it was.
Yeah. Like but yeah, Night in the Woods has horror elements to it, and I think that's what I like most, is that a lot of them have, these tense things built into them, but aren't necessarily like horror, like straight up. Like I haven't
it's played. Not like you're playing PT,
right? No.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Which is a story game.
Yeah. Honestly, like if you also haven't seen PT, watch any like Let's Play of it, because I think it is also an incredible experience.
I did not understand the fascination with that demo.
Have you seen?
Yeah, I was there when we played it. I think it is just like one of the. I do not understand the fascination of
you
that
don't
demo.
get into horror games.
Not at all. No, they're usually not fun in any way. Okay. No, I mean, I'm not a big fan of. I don't play a ton of first-person games. I don't play a ton of. Obviously, I'm not chiming in a ton on this conversation, so I don't play a ton of story-driven games. Although it is a type of a game that I like. I'm kind of like DJ. Like I just have to be in a very specific mood. But it's typically like if I'm playing stuff, it's stuff like Professor Layton, where there's like the story is what's driving me through those games, but it is like there are all these puzzles just interspersed throughout the game that are kind of driving me through, like giving me that sense of satisfaction, because unlike you, Randall, I still think in most cases, I do think they're definitely examples otherwise, but like I think it's just easier to tell a story in like a film or in a TV series. Obviously there's just more interesting ways you can do that in a video game, and Kentucky Route Zero sounds super interesting in that regard. So
yeah, I mean, I think that horror is the easiest thing to, you know, transition like from a story into a game. Just
I can see that.
I just never feel scared. I've never felt scared from a video game ever.
Do you get scared from movies?
A little bit, way more than I do from a video game.
I don't know. I felt scared in some Resident Evil games, just like the tension, right? Like you just,
I feel none of that.
I haven't gotten through Biohazard just because I get scared pretty easily with the first person horror games.
Oh yeah.
Do you like go like lights out, like shut every, you know, do you immerse yourself in the experience to increase that?
More often than not, yeah.
Because I've tried to do it. Like I want that experience, but I've not been able. That's kind of why like VR is like compelling to me, because I'm like, I want to be freaked out while I'm playing a game or just so immersed. But maybe it's just that there's like a disconnect for me personally when I'm playing a game that like, because I'm in control.
See,
there's just something about it.
To me, that's what enhances it for me.
Same.
Because like in a movie, it's just like, okay, I'm just gonna, you know, see what they've crafted, and it's gonna unfold how it is.
It's too easy to disconnect.
Yeah,
I see, like, man. I just totally disagree. I agree on a second watch of a film, like you know all the beats, but like, man, the first time it catches me harder.
Well, for me, like having the agency then makes me like really anxious about the decisions I'm making. Like, am I doing something to enable the horror, or am I, you know, doing?
Am I in control, or am I like unwittingly like advancing,
walking into a trap or something?
You're the one that has to open that door. You have to press the button to make that decision.
Yeah. No, I'm on the same wavelength as you, because like even like when I was watching PT, like I was still getting like. Like, because I didn't play that game, but that still like did a lot to like spook.
Even if I I played that game, and anytime I've rewatched it, I've gotten like creeped out.
I
don't know.
And Kevin, I want you to download the Resident Evil 7 demo. I want you to play that.
Maybe it's just something about the fact that you can like just continue, because like what if you're watching a movie, it's like whatever happens in the movie happens. You know, if that character just got killed. They just got killed.
There's the lure of a success state where you like avoid all the danger, and you can't like
or I die and I just go try it again. I don't know. I've just I guess I've never been sucked in, but I've admittedly not really even played any of them. You know, I've downloaded like Soma and then some of the games that have come out on PS Plus over the years, and then I've watched DJ play a couple of things, but yeah.
I will say, like, even though I would say there are like either horror or thriller elements. Mostly this is not a horror game. Mostly this is a game that is, about this story of this, world that is a little bit more than it seems, and the people who are normal that are in it. And, there's a lot about, like specific stuff in like Kentucky history, like also specific stuff about like labor history as well, which is also a huge thing in Night in the Woods. Like, so you get, the Pennsylvania side in Night in the Woods, whereas like you get the Kentucky, and like it's very different stories, but kind of a same vein. And I think it's a really interesting story that you don't typically see, especially in
any medium, honestly,
And I think a lot of the cool things with Kentucky Route Zero that I've also like really connected with is there's a lot of art as well in it. And like with the play, like, it's supposed to be like this like production of like this specific thing, and you're watching it like as someone who would watch a play. And like they're in another interlude, like you're at an art exhibition and you're interacting with it as if you're actually at an art exhibition. It's not supposed to be like, I was talking to Kevin, like where, usually when you see like an art exhibition in a movie or like a TV show, it's like supposed to be either like too high concept for you to understand, or dumbed down so much that like it's like bringing a specific point and moving the plot along.
Or it's just making fun of the idea of it in the first place, right? Yeah.
So like this was the first time that I was like, no, this is literally just like what it's actually like to be at an art exhibition.
Man.
Like, and like it exists wholly within this universe, and it's not being anything other than just like, yeah, this is it. And I've never had that experience.
Wow. I want to play this game bad.
I was just going to say, I'm intrigued by the structure or just like all the different stuff going on. Like I'm always, even if it's not necessarily up my alley, I'm all for like these games that are kind of pushing the boundaries of what a video game can be or do, or again, whether you consider it a video game or not, whatever. If you consider it an interactive story, who cares? You know, if you enjoy the experience, that's awesome. So I am curious to see like what kinds of things will come out of this format. Yeah, you know,
and I think it's changed so much since it started.
Yeah,
like it's a completely different field now, than it was 6 years ago, and I really like the fact that we're at the place that we're at now.
Yeah, and there is a part of me that like, you know, as much as I like my twitchy games, that I, you know, love like, you know, just like, I don't know, any kind of twitchy game. I can't think of an example. I guess we're going to talk about Wizard of Legend later on this episode. So that's like kind of twitchy, fast-paced mechanics and stuff.
Yeah.
But like that's becoming a thing that I have to be in the mood for now. You know, I have to be in the mood to be like amped up and like, okay, edge of my seat gaming, like, and I'm not always in that mood.
And awake
Sometimes
enough
I do want
to actually do well. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, these games maybe this will be something that I kind of grow into. So, definitely going to keep my ear to the ground, even if it's not my first interest.
Kind of a random question. I mean, I assume y'all have checked out Black Mirror Bandersnatch.
No,
I still have not.
I know about it.
I've done other Black Mirror episodes.
Do you consider that a game?
I was going to ask you guys, but I'm the only one who I would say so. I'd say I couldn't say it's too terribly different. Than some actual games. I mean, it's
like a choose your own adventure type of format, right?
Yeah, it is like very select parts where you have to like make a dialogue choice or what have you, but
has it been like, I assume like because it came out a while ago, like that's been fully mapped out by now?
It must be.
Yeah.
There still isn't any like secrets like in Homestar where you had to like click on like a mug in the background.
Oh man, that would be great. But yeah, no, I've never watched it. I actually haven't watched much Black Mirror in general. I've seen a couple episodes, but
are you looking to get depressed, Kevin?
I think I'm already there. So trying to go in the opposite direction here.
Yeah.
But I guess a video game that's not helping me move in that process is Rogue Singularity. Although I am having a pretty good time with that video game. It is a janky mess. Don't get me wrong, it is a janky video game, and this is like it's a you know, with Rogue in the name of the game, it is a roguelike title. It's like a 3D platformer with some heavy influence from like the Mario titles. You know, you have like a triple jump where like as you land, you can time it and just get like a, you know, more height each time you jump.
Nice.
But you can unlock new abilities. I only have like the one starting ability. I've played a decent amount, but maybe I'm just missing how you unlock these things. I've only really unlocked like different robot. You play as like this robot. And I've just unlocked like kind of different skins, different colors, like paint colors and stuff like that. So you get some different abilities. And right now I just have the one ability where you can hold down the A button, which is your ability button. And I can like kind of hover down for a pretty long time. It's like you get this like spinning propeller that kind of lets you can definitely clear some segments that like are not meant, you know, you're supposed to traverse these little platforming chunks. You can definitely kind of skip some by doing like a triple high jump, or you can even like almost do like you can do a ground pound. You can even like when you're standing stationary, you can hold down the ground pound button and like charge a jump and then do like just like a stationary super high jump.
Nice.
Like almost like you would in Super
like
Mario 2. Yeah, exactly. You even flash as you charge up. Nice. Just like that. But it's like, like I saved a couple videos on my Switch to show to DJ, and DJ actually experienced to show to DJ and John.
Clip.
And yeah, DJ saw it for himself firsthand. Like there's this one, it might be multiple things, but there's definitely this one obstacle, and they're just these like kind of procedurally generated obstacle courses that are like not dissimilar. Like you're like kind of in this nebulous Mario Galaxy-esque setting,
or like,
and then you're like, they're like Mario
levels.
Sunshine levels, like kind of like the levels where they take flood away from you.
Oh no, those are the good ones.
Yeah, and kind of like the levels in Hat in Time too. I think I posted some clips of those too at some point, where like those ice, like I don't know, so there's some kind of secret hidden levels in a Hat in Time that are very similar. But yeah, they're just like these obstacle courses. But there's one particular obstacle that's like these spinning, rotating, like plasma electric current things that just spin at a steady pace, and it doesn't matter if you touch them directly or if you are directly in between where the beams are located. Just die. Matter, like the hit detection is unbelievable. I'll post a clip at some point, but
that's a deal breaker.
It's a little bit of a shame. Like it is to the point where like when that obstacle shows up in a level, I will like take a weird approach again with like a lot of times having to use that like hover float down ability to like go around it, and like it's kind of weird. Like you can do a wall jump in this game, but not like you would think in most 3D platformers, like where you're like in Mario, you're running and like you're jumping off the wall and then bouncing off of it. You can actually kind of jump like almost like you do in Celeste, like stick to the wall and keep clambering up it.
Okay.
Which is kind of weird to get used to. And again, the controls are pretty good for the most part. They're a little slippery, but it is a fun game. As much as I'm kind of bagging on it, and there is some issues. It's janky as it comes, but I just keep playing it. It's like bite-sized chunks. There's like daily runs.
That's cool.
The graphics, are kind of generic, but they're decent. The first setting, like the first world you play through, there's kind of like 3 worlds per zone or whatever. And there even was like kind of like a boss battle that I got to after like a certain number of levels. It wasn't necessarily like I didn't have to beat the boss. I had to like dodge all its attacks, and then like when there was an opening, then there would be an opening to a path, and then I'd have to run down, do a little obstacle course thing, and like the boss would keep following me. And that was kind of that was actually one of the cooler levels once I figured out what to do, how to get like past the boss and slip past them. But yeah, I mean, I picked this game up on sale for $1.50, so I'm not complaining by any means. But it is like, I think it's normally $15, and I would definitely be a little bit disappointed in the sense of just the lack of polish in some regards.
Yeah.
And it definitely feels like a budget title to me, I guess, in some ways, but in some ways it really does, making a character that controls well in a 3D platformer is not an easy task, and this game for the most part feels pretty good. So I don't feel, other than those cheap deaths due to like hit detection, I don't feel like I'm dying because of like I couldn't judge a jump. You do get a double jump as well, so you can like you can really finesse your way. Like you guys saw me save a couple of like, again, with that sticking to the wall and being able to clamber up it.
The toolbox that you're given like does allow you to do like a lot of creative stuff, and I think that is definitely a strength of the game. Like watching you play and just being like I was watching things, I was like, oh, this is how I would approach it, and then you're just doing something completely different, and I think that's cool. A testament to like actually really good like control design.
Yeah, and like most of the levels are strung together in like a genuinely procedurally generated way, and like the first time I booted the game up, it was like the first obstacle I came across. The way things were laid out was like almost impossible to get past. So, and I was like, what the hell? This game is impossible. And I was like, oh, I just got like a really unlucky draw on that one. But I don't know. Like a lot of procedurally generated games are really not actually, they're like handcrafted rooms that are then just procedurally strung together.
Right.
Where like this is like seemingly just truly like, here's a bunch of random shit. But I am having fun with it. I don't really know where I stand. I don't know if I can give it a wholehearted recommendation, but
you're still playing.
I'm still playing it, and I probably will keep playing it. So.
Rogue Singularity may be worth it if it's on sale still. Sounds like.
that's what I would say. And I wouldn't say, it doesn't. This was like a steal at $1.50. I wouldn't be mad if I paid like $5 or something.
Yeah,
because it is. I've already played probably for a couple hours, so it's not anything that I would scoff at. And it does seem like a fun like game that you could play at like a party real quick.
Sure,
like just pass the controller around.
Yeah,
but a game that we haven't had to pass the controller around with is Wizard of Legend, which is what DJ and I have been playing. A lot of co-op. John and DJ played a co-op run right before we recorded tonight. I know we talked about it a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, shortly after that Thundering Keep update, which I think just added like a new zone and a bunch of new like spells and new relics and stuff. But we've just been playing quite a bit more, unlocking a bunch of new arcana, which are like the cards and spells that you get. And the game has just been getting, at least for me, I don't want to speak for everybody, but it's just been getting more and more fun as we unlock new abilities. I mean, obviously, that's just part of the fun in general is like, oh, what's the next ability we're going to be able to unlock be? And you're able to pick from usually like 3 or 4 different ones. But yeah, I don't know. There's just a lot of depth to this game. I still have the same gripes that I had in the previous episode that I wish there was more level variety and stuff. But yeah, it's really fun. But
yeah, it seems like it's mainly, thriving on the mechanical variety. And now it seems like we're at a place where we're kind of like, oh yeah, like this is my setup. Like I'm good to go with this. Like it's feeling like we're equipped the way we want to be equipped.
Yeah, or at least having options that are allowing us to play the way we want to play. Like more, you can almost have a setup that has more ranged attacks or more melee attacks or more defensive strategies or more. You have a lot of options. Like we talked about something like the relics are like a thing that like when you go into like the chest where you equip them at the start of your run, like it looks like there's an offense. It's really nice that they keep them organized. There's like an offense drawer, a defense drawer, and then I forget what the other one is, but there's like 3 categories, and it almost seems like you're going to be able to equip like 3 buffs to start the run with, but you only get to pick one of those, and then you can buy more in the shops throughout the runs and stuff. But yeah, and another thing I will say is that I have only been playing this game co-op. Like I've booted it up even once or twice. Like maybe I'll play a Wizard of Legend run by myself, and I'm just like, actually, I'll just wait till somebody comes over to play some, because it definitely that lack of visual variety and stuff just is I don't know. I know it sounds dumb, but it's just not enough to keep me coming back on my own. But it is a really fun couch co-op experience.
I do like the pixel art in the game, though.
Oh, it's beautiful. And I know we talked about the music last time, too, with the same guy who did the Sparklight soundtrack, Dale North. Really like the soundtrack in this game a lot as well. I think they just released like piano version of the soundtrack on vinyl, actually.
Nice.
Which is super cool. It looks really nice. Like at least the artwork sleeve. I saw some like tweets or something about that.
Nice.
But really just like the game's super polished. Almost like I'll almost say there's almost too much, like all the different arcanas in the game, like gets overwhelming to me. Like you only get to pick 4, and there's I think well over 100 at this point in the game. So it does get to be like, okay, like I don't know. I appreciate the variety, but it does seem like there's bound to be some redundancy and some just like it could get overwhelming maybe once you unlock everything.
Yeah,
sure.
Also, to make your choices,
because I played co-op for the first time following this update, and
first time post patch, right?
Correct. Yeah. So a thing that I had mentioned earlier on like the previous episode, like my gripe was like how slow the progression was. And that was a thing that after playing one round with like DJ, like following this update, I had gotten in like previous runs when I was playing solo, I would get 5 gems at the end of a run. And like that would be like me making it to a boss. And like I would lose to the boss, but there are the 2 mini bosses for like the stages leading up to a main boss. And like I still would just not get enough to even buy like 1 arcana. And
yeah, the gems are like kind of the main currency in the game that you spend in like the hub world.
So the thing, like the prospect was like, okay, I'll have to do multiple runs before I can even change my loadout.
Right.
Whereas like following this update and playing one round with DJ, and I don't know if this is just because like playing co-op we advanced further or
racked up better combos, because it does seem like it combines your combos together. It kind of like really is truly cooperative.
But like in addition to just cool. It being a faster paced game and us being able to do more damage and do more things because there's 2 of us on screen, I ended that run with 50 gems that we gained.
Wow.
Which is enough to buy 5 Arcana. And that is such a difference from like my original experience I had with this game. Like that, and that literally like changes the entire game.
It's night and day, yeah, because I only played maybe a tiny bit pre-patch, and I do vaguely recall having that like, man, this seems like this game's going to be a grind, and that's probably why I never picked it back up. And then the update came out, and it's like, okay, play some co-op, and I'm into it. I definitely have that itch to want to beat it with DJ, and I know like same. That DJ definitely helps encourage that, because he just has that just like once he starts playing a game. Like it's like it's a challenge.
Don't let the game win.
The challenge is on. So yeah, I definitely want to beat it, and I'm definitely still enjoying the mechanics, and I'm definitely still enjoying unlocking the different arcana. I know I was saying like, oh, it seems like it might get overwhelming, but it's still fun to see what the new abilities you get are going to be. But it does, I feel like we have spent definitely some time just sitting in the menus like, well, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this. So.
Well, it's cool that it's so easy to test out everything. Like,
yeah, they have like a little battleground with like little wood, like scarecrow-esque minions that you can just wail on.
Oh, that's nice.
Real quick to test out your abilities. But
there's like little cool things we're discovering, like when your blue meter's full and how you unleash just like
your signature move. You do like an extra powerful version of that if that's fully charged.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot going on, and they don't explain a lot of it. I mean, and I guess it's been a while since I played the tutorial, so I'm sure they actually do.
No, they do. It was just stuff that I forgot, but it was still like I hadn't played this game in months, and like it was easy to pick back up. Like it's very well communicated at the bottom of the screen what all your like spell slots are, like what button they're mapped to, and you just get used to like, all right, that's dash, that's my range attack, that's my melee attack. And it's an easy game to pick back up after you learn it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's intense. It's very intense, very fast paced.
Especially if you and your buddy beat a boss and then have to face off against each other.
Yeah, that's really fun. It does like a little showdown.
Old school Double Dragon
full
style.
Health.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like there can only be one.
Yeah.
One Wizard of Legend.
That's funny.
Yeah. So it's definitely something I want to play more together with you guys. And another game that I want to play more together with all of us is Rocket League, which we also played a little bit the other night. I think it was our first time for all of us playing Chaos Mode, which is the 4-on-4. Unfortunately, it doesn't let you play competitively in that, which kind of doesn't make sense.
Why.
Yeah. It's not a true esport if you play 4-on-4, but
because you can just have someone be goalie.
I guess
you can still do that at 3-on-3s.
Yeah. I mean, it changes the game, but every mode does. You know, if you play 2-on-2 or 3-on-3, like every mode, yeah. So, but it didn't feel. To me, the chaos in the title is not necessarily justified. It just felt like we were playing Rocket League with like a little bit faster pace, or more like the ball is just bouncing around a little more.
Yeah, it's easier for someone to get a touch on the ball.
Yeah.
But you also don't feel like you have to race back to the goal like as much as you would before. Like there's more confidence that like someone will be there.
Yeah, you can play a little more aggressively. Or a little more haphazardly, maybe.
Yeah.
But
chaotically, would you say?
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, I don't know why we need to talk about Rocket League more,
because it's
other
great.
than to just say it's just so fun.
All 4 of us playing a game together in our own team, the Pursuing Pixels.
And I think, we weren't doing cross-platform, but again, it is awesome that this game does support cross-platform and just
so I can play on my PS4 while you guys are all on your Switch,
which is really cool.
Yeah. And we were saying that, I said this the other day, and I am somebody admittedly who speaks in hyperbole at times, or maybe not even at times, but at many times.
You always speak in hyperbole.
But I don't think it's a stretch to say that this is one of the greatest games of all time.
It's a top 5.
Top tier
maybe
multiplayer
even
game
the best game.
Least.
Yeah, it's just incredible that there's just so much depth to these mechanics.
Yeah.
and it just never ceases to be fun to me. It is always engaging. I always want to play one more game. I'll play until I'm tired enough to want to till I have to go to bed.
Yeah,
you know, it's just an amazing game. I love it,
and it runs really well on Switch at this point. When it first came out, it was a little, but they've optimized it to the point where it runs really nice.
I was just gonna say they've definitely improved it significantly since it first came out on Switch.
Yeah, a ton. Yeah, it's a totally different experience now, and it's just such like most Switch games. It's such a good marriage with the Switch for that pick up and play aspect too.
Oh yeah, and it's so immediate. Unlike some online games just can be a pain in the ass to try to find a game. You know, to try to find somebody to play with. So
the community is so massive.
It's insane. There's like 100,000 people at any given time.
Seems like
playing Rocket League. So. Yeah, you can find a match within like 30 seconds, almost guaranteed, even on the Switch and even with my pretty crummy internet.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
That's
League.
What's that?
Play Rocket League. Do it.
Yeah. You heard it here first.
First time.
But yeah, I think we can pretty much wrap it up there this week with the video game chat, and we'll be back next Monday. But until then, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Pursuing Pixels. We're at pursuingpixels.com. You can email us at pursuingpixels@gmail.com. You can also challenge us on Rocket League. Our team name is just Pursuing Pixels. I actually don't know if you can actually directly challenge us, but just look for us. You might see a little PP tag next to our names there. So
look for the PP.
We're out there. We're out there. So until next Monday, we'll catch y'all next week. Take care.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You guys hear that?
Yeah.
Someone just like blasting music. Oh.
What is that?
It's Triple H. My fucking
Jesus.
I have one of those Amazon Alexa things. I think it's playing. I think it's sunk up. It's playing my Triple H theme song in the other room.
In the other room.
I kept hearing this clicking, and I was like, "What is that clicking sound?" I thought it was like just like the floor creaking, but I was like, "That's way too consistent."
Your phone's right there, and I'm like, neither of our phones are playing music.
You hear it though,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta go shut that off.
This on?
This is on. 1, 2.
Oh God.
Christ.